Picture this. It's a cold February night in Russia. Snow everywhere. A lonely man walks toward the train tracks because he knows what's coming. Every freaking year on Valentine's Day he sees her, his wife, standing right there, calling his name, looking exactly like she did before the train hit her. Now, you might think grief, right? Just some guy losing it over his dead wife. But nah, other people have seen her too. Old station workers whisper about a woman in white, waiting, watching. A few dumbasses even try to follow her, and guess what? They never came back. Locals say she's trying to bring him with her, that every year she gets stronger, closer. And this year, bro, this might be the year he finally steps onto those tracks. She wasn't just any ghost hunter, she was obsessed. A history professor by day, a seeker of the unknown by night. She had spent years chasing whispers of the afterlife, but nothing prepared her for Blackwood Manor. The moment she stepped inside, she felt it him, a shadow in the mirror, a whisper in the wind. She called it love at first, haunting. At first, it was harmless, dreams, vivid, intoxicating dreams of a man she never met. His voice, soft but commanding. His touch, cold yet familiar. She woke up craving his presence. Then the dreams didn't stop. Her students noticed a change. Her lectures lost their spark. She looked hollow, distant. She spoke of a husband, a man no one had ever seen. She swore he was real. He's waiting for me, she'd say. I just need to find the way. Then, one night she did. She vanished without a trace. No calls, no signs of struggle, just her journal, left open to the final page. I'm going to be with him now. Some say she ran away. Others believe she finally crossed over. But here's the chilling part. Weeks later, a group of tourists snapped a photo near Blackwood Manor, and in the background, a pale-faced woman staring through the window. Some say it was her, but she was never seen again. So check this out. A woman in Rajasthan gets a love letter. Pretty standard, right? But hold up. The dude who wrote it? Yeah, he's been dead for years. Sounds wild? Oh, it gets better. She's curious, so she opens the letter, reads it out loud, and that's when the real story kicks in. Suddenly, she feels it. That feeling when someone's watching you. The whispers start. First, it's like a breeze in the background. Then, it's like a creepy voice right behind her ear. Freaky, right? Every single time she reads it, the chills hit harder, colder. Her hands freeze. It's like something dark is trying to pull her in. One night, she reads a letter and wham, she feels her hand burn. No flame, no smoke, just straight up heat, like someone set it on fire without a match. Now she's freaked. She burns the letter. Gone. Ashes. Finished. And just like that, the haunting stops, like it was never there. But yo, this is where it gets nuts. The letter wasn't some sweet love confession. It was cursed. A spirit from a past life still hung up on her. And that's why it haunted her. The spirit of a guy who had fallen in love with her and was looking for a second shot. So what happened after she burned it? Was it over? Maybe. Or maybe the spirit just went quiet for now. Trust me, I'm just saying. Sometimes, you don't want to mess with love from the other side. Some people make pacts with the devil, but Lola, she chose something worse. She had it all. Beauty, charm, and a ring on her finger. Wedding in 2 weeks. Life was perfect until she met him. The shadow in the corner, the whisper in her ear at 3 a.m. Say my name and I'll give you what you desire. And Lola, she was curious. She spoke his name. She didn't even know what she was asking for. But the next morning, her fiancé was gone. Not missing. Gone. Like he never existed. No records. No photos. His family swore they never had a son. Lola screamed, cried, broke, but the shadow, it stayed. "You're mine now," it whispered, just like you asked. And from that day on, she never walked alone. Lola wasn't just unlucky. She was doomed from the start. Years ago, her great-grandmother struck a deal with the Shadow Man. Beauty, wealth, love, a perfect life. But deals like that, they always come with a price. And the price? The firstborn daughter of every generation. Lola never knew, but the Shadow Man, he never forgets. Lola lost her mind. She begged, cried, tore through old books, searched for answers, hunted down priests, psychics, exorcists, anyone who could help. She even burned her own house down, hoping the flames would take him with it. But the Shadow Man, he stayed, until one night she snapped. She stood in the ashes of what was left and screamed into the darkness, "Take me, but let me see him one last time." And the Shadow Man, he grinned. The next morning, the house was empty. No Lola, no trace of struggle, just a single wedding ring lying on the scorched floorboards. Twist ending. Years later, a group of ghost hunters explored Lola's abandoned house. They took a picture, and in the corner of the frame, a tall, grinning shadow. Some say it was waiting for the next name to be spoken. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, especially when she has voodoo on her side. In the heart of Port-au-Prince, Marie, a skilled seamstress, had everything: love, security, a husband she adored. Or so she thought. Then came the whispers, the late nights, the smell of another woman's perfume clinging to his clothes. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. Instead, she sought out a feared Bacher, a master of dark voodoo. For 3 nights, she followed the ritual: a candle, a lock of his hair, and a small straw doll with black button eyes. Every whisper, every needle she pushed into its chest, she spoke just one thing: "Feel what I feel." Then it happened. Days later, her husband collapsed in the marketplace, clutching his chest. He gasped, eyes wide with terror. "The needles, they're inside me," he screamed. But there was nothing, no wounds, no marks, just invisible agony tearing him apart. Within hours, he was dead. Some called it karma. Others whispered about the doll, buried deep in the woods, its tiny chest pierced straight through. And Marie, she was never seen again. Some love stories never turn to ashes, even when they should. It started with a funeral. Nikos, a fisherman from Thessaloniki, stood silently as the flames consumed his wife's body. Or at least, they were supposed to. But something was wrong. The fire burned hot. The wood turned to embers. Yet her ashes remained untouched, bone white, strangely cold to the touch. The priest muttered a prayer uneasy. The crematorium workers whispered, calling it unnatural. Then the shadows came. At night, Nico saw movement in the corners of his home. A flicker of something standing at the doorway. A whisper that wasn't there. At first, he blamed the grief, but then he heard it. "Why did you burn me, Nikos?" His blood ran cold. Each night, the voice got louder. His bed felt heavier, as if someone lay beside him. His candles flickered out whenever he spoke her name. Desperate, he sought an elder in the village. The old woman only asked one question: did she want to be burned? Nico's breath hitched. His wife had begged for a burial, near the sea she loved. He had ignored her wishes. The elder only sighed. Then she will not rest. That night, Nikos gathered her ashes and rowed his boat far into the dark Aegean waters. With shaking hands, he scattered them into the waves, whispering, "Forgive me." The moment the last ash touched the water, the wind stopped, the sea stilled, and for the first time in weeks, he felt alone. Some say she finally let go. Others, they say Nikos never slept near fire again. Some love stories don't end with death. They begin. It started with a second chance, a new heart, a new life. When Alessia woke from surgery, she touched her chest, feeling the unfamiliar rhythm inside her. Strong, steady, but something else lurked beneath the beat. At first, it was subtle. A faint warmth when she sat in her late husband's chair. A whisper when she closed her eyes at night. Soft, like his voice, calling her name. Then it got worse. She'd wake up gasping, his scent lingering in the air. Doors creaked open on their own. Her fingers tingled with a presence that wasn't there. And then the whispers changed. "You are mine. You are still mine." Her pulse pounded. The doctors called it trauma, the mind struggling to accept loss. But Alessia knew better. One night, she pressed a stethoscope to her chest. But beneath the rhythm of life, there was something else, a second sound, a heartbeat that wasn't hers. They say the red string connects soulmates forever, but what if one is already dead? Naoki and Aiko believed in destiny. Two lovers, one thread, tied by fate. On a warm summer night, they performed an ancient ritual. A single red string wrapped around their fingers, binding them in life and beyond. The next morning, Aiko was gone. An accident, they said. A tragic fall from the old shrine steps. But Naoki refused to believe it was just fate. Then, the nightmares began. Every night, he saw her. Aiko standing by the window, her lips moving, but no sound escaping. Her finger, still wrapped in that red thread, tugging at something unseen. Then, one night, he woke up to cold hands tightening around his own. The string was still there, tighter, pulling, dragging him toward the window. He cut it, he burned it, but no matter what he did, the thread always came back. And Aiko, she was still waiting. They say love lasts beyond death, but what if the bride never left? It was supposed to be the happiest night of their lives. Diego and Isabella, madly in love, newly married, dancing under the soft glow of candlelight at their wedding reception. She was radiant, twirling in her white dress, laughing as Diego held her close. But fate had other plans. That night, Isabella never made it to their honeymoon suite. A freak accident, a loose railing on the balcony, one misstep, a scream, and then silence. Diego was shattered. One moment, she was in his arms. The next, she was gone. But here's where the story turns twisted. The night after the funeral, Diego sat alone in their bedroom, drowning in grief. And then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw it. The mirror. At first, he thought it was just his exhausted mind playing tricks on him. But no, he saw her, Isabella, standing in her wedding dress, her veil draped over her face. And she was dancing, soft, slow, swaying to the music that wasn't there. Diego spun around, nothing, just an empty room. But when he looked back at the mirror, she was still there. Every night, the same thing, the same songless dance. Her face always hidden, her body moving in slow, ghostly twirls. At first, Diego thought she had returned to him. Maybe she couldn't move on. Maybe she didn't want to. But then he noticed something. Every night, she got closer, step by step, until one night, she reached out, her veil started to lift. Diego panicked. Something in him knew. He could never let himself see her face. He smashed the mirror, and just like that, she was gone. Or so he thought, because weeks later, Diego walked past a shop window, and in the reflection, Isabella, still dancing, still waiting, and this time, she was staring right at him. A chilling love story where the dance never ends. Moral of the story: some love stories don't get a happy ending, and some brides never leave the dance floor. Some legends warn you, others lure you in. It started with a song, low, haunting, a melody that rose with the tide, slipping through the cracks of a small fishing village. Only one man ever followed it, Datu, a fisherman who swore he wasn't crazy. He heard her voice every night, soft, wordless, floating just beyond the waves. At first, he ignored it. Who wouldn't? The ocean is full of sounds. But then, he saw her. Moonlight, silver hair like woven seafoam, eyes too deep, too dark, like the ocean itself could pull you under. A woman, a mermaid. She never spoke, only watched, lingering near his boat, just close enough to tempt. Datu should have turned away, should have listened to the elders. Never trust what comes from the deep. But love makes fools of men. Night after night he returned, tossed fish into the water, spoke to her, even when she never answered, until one night she reached for it. Cold fingers, a touch that burned, and then she sang. The village woke to an empty boat. No Datu, no sign of a struggle, just the echo of a song fading into the tide. They searched for days. Nothing. Then the whisper started. He's not gone. Fishermen swore they saw him, far beyond the shore, standing in the shallows at night. Not drowning, just standing, staring. And when they called his name, he smiled and walked back into the waves. No one dares to fish there now, not when the sea sings back, and especially not when, some nights, a lone figure still stands in the water, waiting for someone else to listen.
Please subscribe to my channel.